Welcome to Kactus2. This tutorial covers the basics of the hardware design editor. We start by creating a new design. When creating a new hardware design, Kactus2 creates 3 documents. The component containing a design configuration instantiation, the design configuration containing a reference to the created design, and the design itself. The library displays a component containing a design reference with a small symbol. Kactus2 does not display the design and design configuration documents by default. In order to display these, the library filters must be changed. The created component contains a view, which has a reference to a design configuration instantiation. This instantiation contains a reference to the created design configuration, which has a reference to the created design. Kactus2 does the linking of these references automatically when creating a new hardware design, but it is also possible to apply new design and design configuration instantiations to a component. A new hardware design contains columns for input and output, buses and components. The I/O columns are for the interfaces in the component containing the design. The bus column is for components containing internal buses, while the component column is for component instances. Let's set up the design parameters. The editor can be opened from the View group. In order to make changes to the design, it must be unlocked. We will create a few parameters to control the address ranges of the component interconnections. We will now set up the containing component. In order to edit a component, it must be unlocked. First, let's change the product hierarchy to IP, and firmness to fixed. Remember to save often. New parameters are created. We will use these for address and data control. A warning symbol has appeared. This notification tells that there are errors in parameters. In this case, some of the mandatory elements are missing values. A new design instantiation is created. This allows us to configure the design parameters within this component. We can drag the desired design from the library, or write the VLNV for the design reference. The available design parameters are configured. The finished design instantiation is then set to be used in the hierarchical view. Let's create some ports for the component. Some of the ports are used for mapping the bus interfaces, while others are made into individual ports for port connections in the hardware design. Next, the bus interfaces are created. The bus definitions can be dragged from the library, and Kactus2 automatically selects a matching abstraction definition for the bus. There is an error in bus interfaces. This error is caused by the system bus interface and some of the used abstraction definitions. We will fix these while working on the port maps. Kactus2 allows two ways to create port maps. You can add rows like in a regular editor, or add all the ports from the abstraction definition using one of the three methods. To connect a physical port to a logical one, you can select a port from the list, drag it from port table, or use the auto connection tool of Kactus2 to match the ports automatically. A system bus interface needs a designated system group. A logical port with a required presence must be connected in a port map. Let's take a look at the hardware design. The individual ports and bus interfaces can now be found here. The shape and color informs of the type of connection endpoint. Black color is for ports. Turquoise are initiator bus interfaces. Purple is for system bus. These are markers for in-ports, and this interface has only been mapped to in-ports. The initiators in this hardware design are mapped to both in and out ports. We have one bus interface with no port maps shown by this warning icon. That should be fixed. The component is now ready for the design. In this part, we will create component instances for the design. Remember to unlock the document before editing it. Component instances can be created from components by dragging them from the library. This design will be a simple CPU example with a core, buses and peripherals. We need to separate the peripherals from the core to keep the design clean, so let's create a new column for them. Here we can set the name for the column. The column type limits the types of items that can be placed within it. Bus columns accept components containing bridges or channels. Component columns accept components without the aforementioned bus elements. I/O columns are for input and output interfaces of the component containing this design. Custom allows the desired combination of these items. For the peripheral column, components is all we need. The columns can be reorganized by dragging them. The component instances can be repositioned to desired columns. Kactus2 tries to minimize the use space by automatically readjusting the positions of all the instances. The existing columns can be edited by double-clicking the column label. The allowed items are also shown here. The core example 0 component instance contains another hardware design. We can open it by right-clicking the component. This design document is already finished. The bus interfaces and ports on the I/O columns are the same as in the instanced component on the top-level design, thus enabling access through the design hierarchy. Let's finish the component instances by adding two bus components. In this part, we will create interconnections between the component instances. We will use the interconnection tool. When you select an interface with the interconnection tool, Kactus2 highlights all the available endpoints for this interconnection. These endpoints must share the same bus definition and have compatible modes. While the interconnection is being created, Kactus2 draws a preview of the connection line. You can then select the desired interface, creating a connection between the two endpoints. You can return to the selection mode by selecting the selection tool, or by right-clicking in the design editor. It does not look very clear which interface is connected to which. Fortunately, we can reorganize the design by dragging the interfaces and connections. When dragging an interface in a component instance, Kactus2 automatically makes sure that the interface is contained within the instance. There is also the off-page tool to hide the selected connection line. In this part, we will configure the component instances using design parameters. Let's start by checking the configuration details view. The currently active configuration can be changed here. A configuration is a single view containing a design configuration instantiation. The design configuration of the instantiation can be seen here. But the main interest here is the component instance view configuration, which allows the selection of the currently active view for each of the component instances. When a component instance is created in a design, and it contains only one view, then that view is automatically selected as the currently active one. For this design, all the views are set correctly. The component instance details view allows us to configure component instances. This view allows us to configure the descriptive data of the component instance and edit the parameters and module parameters of the component within this design. Parameters with resolve set as immediate cannot be edited, but they can be displayed here. We need the design parameters for the configuration. Any changes to the name of the instance is immediately applied to the design. Changes to the parameter values override the default values of the parameters. These parameters will be set to the design parameter values. To finish the design, we will add tied values for 2 of the ports. The ad hoc port editor allows the editing of ports in design. It can set ad hoc ports for the selected component instance, or the top component. We can set new ports as ad hoc, but ports that have been set in the component editor cannot be removed. When a single port is selected, the ad hoc port editor allows us to set a tied value and define its left and right bounds. The design is now complete and ready to be used in other designs or generators of Kactus2. Thank you for watching this video. For more information on Kactus2, please see the other tutorials.